follows. Americanus, they battle away. Irad still trying to get Dr. Post to respond to urging. Saya's all over him with attachment rate, top of the lane. On the far outside, attachment rate from between Dr. Post. Americanus digs deep toward the inside. Dr. Post now up for the lead. Attachment rate is second. Let there be no doubt who's best. It's Dr. Post, an even money winner.
Welcome back to another Kentucky Derby profile here on Racing Rundown. Today we're going to be talking about attachment rate for our friend of the program, trainer Dale Romans. Interestingly enough, only one win for this horse, but he does have several really good efforts in his career, so it's not, I think that the charts are a little bit deceiving on him, but we're going to get into talking about him. First start on the 25th of January. Was a second place finish. He was beaten 3/4 of a length by market analysis. Came back next start, broke his maiden, won by 6 1/4 lengths. Then was tried in a grade 3, the Gotham at Aqueduct. Was beaten by Mischievous Alex, who was a stakes winner in the Swale Stakes, going one turn. Untitled, did get up for second, but it was a good effort underneath for attachment rate all in all in the Gotham. Next start was in the Unbridled Stakes down at Gulfstream Park behind Dr. Post. And, this is the first of a couple of really good efforts that I would say that attachment rate turned in behind several good horses, Dr. Post being one of them. We'll get to the Ellis Park Derby later on, but the Unbridled Stakes, attachment rate ran a really good second, beaten only a length and a half by Dr. Post, who I think was better than attachment rate by more than the margin of victory. Did have some adversity to deal with, but very similar running style to Dr. Post attachment rate. Ultimately, Dr. Post was the best horse that day, but good effort from him underneath there. Next start, Matt Wynn, was beaten by 3 better horses. Pneumatic, like I've already mentioned several times, really nice winner of the Pegasus. He's going to be live in the Preakness. Really good effort the Belmont Stakes for Pneumatic. New York Traffic always runs a good race in Stakes Company, and Maxfield has the talent to be one of the challengers for Tiz the Law. Unfortunately, he has not been able to stay healthy, but if Maxfield were ever able to stay healthy, he's of the level of Tiz the Law. So losing a race beaten by those 3 horses is definitely not any disrespect to the type of horse that attachment rate is. Next start, in the Bluegrass Stakes, I talked about this with Enforceable. Keeneland's a very weird track to close into, and attachment rate was among a group of a bunch of horses that at the top of the stretch had a chance to close in. He ultimately finished ahead of horses like Mr. Big News Infinite the Fierce, who've run well closing into stakes races earlier, so he closed better than them. Enforceable closed a little bit better than him in the race, but ultimately good 5th place effort for him. Next start, the Ellis Park Derby. I thought that was probably his best race. Sat pretty close. He never was going to beat Art Collector. Art Collector had a very easy trip in the race, but ultimately good 2nd place finish. And with attachment rate, that's the deal with him. He's a horse that is going to run really good races in some of these stakes efforts. I don't necessarily know if I would peg him as a horse that would be able to run good underneath style races, because I think that there are a lot of better horses that do run similar race styles to him. You've got your horses like your New York Traffics, other horses like him. Another horse that comes to mind is a horse like Caracaro. I really think, though, it ultimately boils down with attachment rate that I think that he's an intriguing horse, but I would say that there are horses that I would be more willing to hedge my bets with than I would with him. I do think he's a nice horse, but I wouldn't necessarily peg him to run super well in the Kentucky Derby. I think he's just the type of horse that there's enough horses that are similar enough to him in running style that I think are better than him that I would take over attachment rate. I don't really think attachment rate really strikes me as one that has a really strong case to run underneath. I think attachment rate ultimately is one of those horses that's just, he's there in the race and, he's going to get some consideration. But for me, he's a pass. I wouldn't necessarily use him in a trifecta or a superfecta. And, I think he's just the type of horse that's going to not necessarily, I don't want to say run up the track, but there's better horses than him, and for me, he will be a pass for me because of that. But I do think he's a good horse, and in some of these regional races, like he's been doing the Bluegrass, the Matt Win, the Ellis Park Derby, the Unbridled, races like that, he'll run well. I just don't think, you stack all the 3-year-olds together in a race like this. I think that there are definitely better horses than him. So that's what I think with attachment rate. If you like him underneath, all the power to you. Just isn't for me. But ultimately, that is just what my opinion is. If you have a different opinion, go for it. Even if you do decide to play him in the Kentucky Derby, good luck. And thank you for stopping by, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.